Welcome to my pottery studio, or as I like to call it, Flow Studios. And yes, it's all in my apartment. Hi, my name is Danny. I'm the artist behind On Cloud Flow. I wanted to make this video to give you a quick tour of my studio setup because I get a lot of questions about how I make it work in a small space. I'll be linking most of the items that I use below, and I also created a free pottery studio checklist that you can download from my website oncloudflow.com. I went ahead and linked that below. So let's get into it. Now, full disclosure, my studio is rarely ever this organized. I cleaned up so everything is easier to distinguish. I'll go through my setup in the order I work. First up is my work surface, which consists of a table with a few wedging boards that I like to keep on the side. To prepare my clay, I place a wedging board, which is essentially just wood, on top of the table and wedge my clay on it. Here's a pic. A surface that absorbs water is key for wedging, so think of materials like wood, concrete, or plaster. These should work well. Plaster is probably the most popular choice because it's great at absorbing moisture, making it ideal for both wedging and recycling clay. That being said, just use whatever works best for you. Under my table, I have plastic drawers to store tools and equipment. On top, I keep my scale for measuring clay, and my bats, which help transport pieces from the wheel, especially larger ones. I store my bats in a dish rack, which is one of my favorite hacks. Storing them upright prevents warping, so the setup is kind of perfect. Now, let's talk about the star of the show, which is my beautiful, lovely pottery wheel. I use a Brent wheel, which is well known for its durability and quality. I originally learned how to throw on a Brent, so I naturally gravitated toward buying one. Pottery wheels can be very pricey, so I definitely recommend doing your own research. Next to my wheel, I keep my containers for water and my most used tools. I have a lot of tools, but the essentials for throwing are sponge, rib, knife tool, needle tool, wire cutter, and though they're not included here, trimming tools such as a ribbon and loop tool. I've also linked a pottery tool set that includes all the basics and more, so make sure to check that out. One of my favorite hacks is turning my pottery wheel into a mini desk. I just place my wedging board on top of the wheel head and boom, extra workspace. I wanted to show you guys this storage cart, which is super convenient. It has wheels, so I can roll it up to my wheel or work surface when I need it. I keep tools and small equipment in here for easy access. Another key piece of equipment that actually might be just as important as the wheel is my air purifier. Protecting your lungs is essential when working with clay. When clay dries, it releases crystalline silica, which with repeated exposure can lead to silicosis. Silicosis is a lung disease that makes it harder to breathe and cannot be reversed. An air purifier with a HEPA filter is crucial for reducing clay dust. After researching, I chose Blue Air, but any HEPA filter purifier will help keep the air clean. Next up is shelving. Having shelving or dedicated storage space for your pieces is essential. A spot where you can set your work aside and return to it later just makes the process much more convenient. The amount of shelving you need really depends on how often and how much you create, so I would say plan accordingly. Moving on to cleaning and clay disposal. So when it comes to cleaning, I would say a mop and mop bucket are essential to reduce dust. Never dry sweep. I repeat, never dry sweep. We don't want to breathe in any clay dust. Remember, as we learned earlier, we don't want silicosis. I also use sponges for cleaning surfaces, my tools, and of course my hands. And then having buckets for water is essential for cleaning as well. And buckets to store your clay too, right? We are now on my balcony where I have even more buckets. This is where I recycle clay. If you're interested, I might do a separate video on how to do that. Just let me know in the comments below. One of my biggest concerns when setting up my studio was where to dump clay water, especially living in an apartment. Clay water should definitely not be poured down the sink because it can cause serious plumbing issues over time. So, my solution was the sun. I recycle as much clay as possible. Whatever remains goes into a bucket where the sun helps with evaporation. It's definitely a lengthy process, but honestly, everything in pottery is, so you get used to it. What can I say? The one major piece of equipment I have yet to mention is the lovely kiln. I think they have small mini kilns now that you can plug into a regular outlet, but a big kiln is definitely not realistic for an apartment. Instead, you can do what I do and find a local studio that offers firing services for a fee. Or you can check out kilnshare.com where you can connect with kiln owners who offer firing services. This is definitely a great way to fire your work without needing a kiln at home. That is a wrap for my studio tour. Thanks for listening. Again, I've linked most of the items I use below. And if you want a free pottery studio checklist, you can download that on my website, linked below. If you feel called to subscribe, go for it. And if you have any comments, tips, advice, or ideas, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. And I shall see you next time. Stay flowy.